Hey folks, David back again. So we're still continuing my tribute to Eddie Van Halen with covering the David Lee Roth era Van Halen studio albums. And we have covered the self-titled debut album from 1978 and 1979's Van Halen 2. Next up is going to be their third album, 1980's Women and Children First. You barely see the writing there, so gotta really bring it into the camera. So 1980 album, again under the Warner Brothers label, produced by Ted Templeman, and David Lee Roth on lead vocals and acoustic guitar, Eddie Van Halen on guitars, electric piano and backing vocals, Michael Anthony on bass guitar and backing vocals, and Alex Van Halen on drums. And additionally we have Nicolette Larson on backing vocals. So this time, this is the first album that all the material is completely original. No covers on this album. So we're going to have our first album of complete original material done by Van Halen. So, the lead-off track and the Cradle Will Rock. One of the songs that I grew up hearing a lot in my childhood. One of the first Van Halen songs that I've ever heard. I mean, one of the Van Halen tunes I grew up with a lot in my childhood. We get this little boo 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 boo, which is the keyboard that Eddie starts to use, and this is the first album that they started using keyboards. That Eddie was starting to kind of expand his musical, his sense of music, his musical. Creativity, starting to incorporate keyboards into the music, and it sounds like a guitar because that's what I thought it was at first. But boy, were we wrong! It's actually the electric piano. It's a phase shifter effective Wurlitzer electric piano. It's played through the Marshall Plexi amplifier, and now I'm getting that through Wikipedia. As I was looking at from that's what it states on Wikipedia. So I don't care what anybody thinks. Wikipedia is my go-to source for information. So that's what that sound is at the start, and then of course we go into a nice start kickoff track to start off an album. Another very iconic song done by Van Halen, and as a matter of fact, this was the only single that was released from the album. And again, I love how the vocals that were done by David Lee Roth in this one, and the Cradle Will Rock chorus, rock on. Yeah, they want us to rock on, and they sure are. Van Halen are rocking on so far. And then we get a nice little tapping solo by Eddie. And then that's when things will start to get pretty quiet. And this is the album where we'll start to hear more of David Lee Roth's charismatic side of him, and getting more of that sense of humor side, which I absolutely love. Have you seen Junior's Greats? I always laugh at that every time I hear it. It's just, oh my gosh. I love it when DLR goes in that sort of mode of his. It's absolutely entertaining and funny. It never gets old for me. And then they just carry out Eddie going completely nuts on a tremolo picking to carry us out through the song. So it's a great song to start off the album. So great. Track number 2, Everybody Wants Some. Yet another iconic Van Halen tune that they would play constantly throughout their tours. And boy, the intro is just absolutely entertaining. More DLR being DLR, making those monkey noises and the jungle noises and whatnot. Tarzan. It's absolutely, oh my gosh, that's what I love about Diamond Dave. It's just absolutely entertaining and never gets old for me. And then that's when, after a while of some pretty subdued playing and very loud chords, that's when the chords come in and BAM! Punch you right in the face with a nice kick-ass Van Halen rocker. And man, what a badass rocker it is for the second tune on the album. And you know, honestly, I can't help but think of that riff as like a different like every time I hear that riff, the main riff of the song, it makes me think of the riff for "Ain't Talking About Love." And it's not exactly the same riff, but it kind of sounds somewhat identical to it, to a degree. Not exactly, but just to a degree. But then DLR and the harmonized backing vocals by Michael Anthony. Another typical Van Halen rocker. And oh my goodness, I mean, who doesn't want some of this? I certainly do. If you don't want some of this song, then there's something wrong with you as far as I'm concerned. And then the solo, yet again, it's just, you know, well done. It's more on the melodic side, more of a melodic solo, but of course he does provide typical Eddie Van Halenisms for a guitar solo. Again, very well executed. Another chorus, and then more DLR being DLR. I love the way the line runs off the back of the stockings. I've always liked those kind of high heels too. No, 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 don't take them off, don't take them off. Yeah, that's it. A little more to the right, a little more to the right. I don't know, maybe I should start going to my right or this way, which is to your right, which is to my left. But either way, it's still to the right to a degree. I can either go to my right or I can go to your right. Man. You know, more chorus and it just takes us to the end of the song. Whew, what a ride that song is. One of the best songs on the album for sure. Track number 3, Fools. This is probably one of the more underrated tunes by Van Halen in my personal opinion. We get some little soloing by Eddie Van Halen in the first minute or so on the song. And that's when the rest of the band would actually start kicking in and, you know, just kind of carrying the song, you know, delivering the verses. And I love how DLR delivers the verses. He would kind of say stuff like, let me tell you about this one time. I ain't gotta tell you. Let me put it to music for you. It's more like a storytelling side of Dave. It's where he would go into those lyrics of you know, like he's telling a story. And that's another interesting part of David Lee Roth about his lyrics. He's a storyteller in terms of writing, in terms of his lyrics. And that's what I find interesting. That's another thing I find interesting about Dave. And of course, some more typical choruses with high harmonized backing vocals. And I love at the near the end of the song is when David Lee Roth starts going into whole Fat Albert mode. La! Or Conan the Barbarian or something like that. La! Juice up! Oh my gosh. It's more... man, it's just more DLR goodness as far as I'm concerned. Another kick-ass rocker. Track number 4, Romeo Delight. Yet another badass song with more badass riffs done by Eddie Van Halen. And then, you know, what the line, I take a whiskey to a party tonight, I'm looking for somebody to squeeze. That doesn't get any more Van Halen than that. You know, just delivering more entertaining choruses. So, and then you just keep doing that, and then there's going to a ripping solo this time around. And then it goes into yet another typical Van Halen breakdown section, where Dave only does like this little thing where he says, "Feel my heartbeat," and he repeats himself, you know, throughout that breakdown section, with Eddie kind of making like little poppy, like, you know, noises on with the guitar in that song, in that section of the song, and it heads right back into the chorus one last time, just taking us out with a rock ender. Yet another kick-ass song. These guys are just knocking it out of the park with all their material so far. Track number 5, Tora. A very short instrumental. It serves as the interlude track to the next one. Which is it's a It's a bit interesting to actually start off side 2 with this particular track. It's harmless, and it's just a couple of guitar chords played by Eddie. It's just really building up to the next track. Um, I know it's me. This is me kind of cheating a little bit, but it's my least favorite on the album because mainly because it's just simply an interlude. I mean, it's not. It doesn't suck. It's good. I mean, it is what it is. It's just just a setup to the next track. I mean, but then again, a lot of the rest of the material on this album is just kicks this tune's ass just right off. Just instantly, right off the bat. But it's just a nice little instrumental interlude. Nothing wrong with it. Track number 6, Loss of Control. We get a up-tempo rocker this time around, and man, I love it when Van Halen goes into the whole up-tempo rockers. Their fast-tempo rockers are some of the best I've ever heard, in my personal opinion. Lost control, lost control, lost control. And then I love it at the very first verse is when Dave kind of, it sounds like he's speaking through a walkie-talkie or something like he's giving off saying, "Mayday, mayday, mayday," stuff like that. It's actually very cool in how it's done, and when he's speaking through a walkie-talkie or something along those lines. And then, but the verses are just mainly lost control, lost control, lost control at that point. But of course, Eddie doing his little. It's so cool, and then more chordy, tremolo chordy solo, and it's not really. I wouldn't say a face melting solo, but it still kicks ass, and it goes into the verse and chorus one last time, and kind of revisiting the tremolo pit chorded solo. From the start of the first solo, and it just rides that little, just rides it all the way to the finish, and yet another awesome song. My gosh. Track number 7, Take Your Whiskey Home. So we start off with an acoustic guitar intro, and then Dave kind of sings softly, and this is definitely one of my favorites on the album. And I know this kind of sounds kind of odd on my part, but even though I'm completely sober, but I can definitely tell great music when I hear it, a great song when I hear it, and this is no exception to that. Take Your Whiskey Home is definitely one of my favorites on the album. So they take the first verse during that acoustic section, and then after he says take your whiskey home, that's when the rest of the band comes in and they completely hard rock it up with the other two verses. And just kind of carry it out until after the last verse and chorus, and then that's when Eddie does a little guitar solo, and it just really just just uses a solo to take the song to the finish, and yet it's just another awesome song. And then a lot of these early Van Halen songs are pretty short. As a matter of fact, the first 6 albums, I didn't mention this in the past 2 episodes. I kind of forgot to do so, but these first 6 albums are very short, so spoiler alert in terms of the other 3. But yeah, the first 6 Van Halen albums are very short. They're just a little over 30 minutes, so you're going to run into a lot of short tracks. But then again, they just pack so much energy and just so much badassery in these short tunes. Most of their tunes are just a little over 3 minutes, somewhere between 3 and 4 minutes. And there's a couple of 5-minute tunes on this album, but they just pack so much into their shorter tunes, and especially the ones that are just over 3 minutes. They just know how to really make them just so good. My gosh, I could say that a lot for a lot of the tracks in their entire catalog, actually, especially the DLR era. The penultimate track number 8, Could This Be Magic? This is when the band is very interesting to me. I love it when bands show they have a sense of humor. And of course, they've been doing that throughout the past 2 albums, the self-titled debut and Van Halen 2. But more on Van Halen 2. But that's when they were starting to actually go into their sense of humor from here on out, starting with this album. They get a bit of more of a campfire type of song, because you can hear in the background, it feels like a actual campfire going on in the background to capture the proper feel. Just sitting around a campfire and just playing just going along with David Lee Roth playing his acoustic guitar on this track. And this is where Nicolette Larson would provide backing vocals for this tune. Because you can hear it when Dave is starting to sing all that. Nicolette Larson, the late Nicolette Larson, rest in peace, provides those backing vocals. But it's a campfire song, and like I said, it's just goofy. It's goofy fun, and I appreciate rock bands that have that goofy sense of humor. They can just do whatever they want and make it fun, and they can be really versatile in terms of what songs they want to do, and that's what I love about Van Halen. And I love ZZ Top. And I don't know, this makes me think of Van Halen and ZZ Top together. I mean, ZZ Top, of course, could have that sense of humor as well in their music, and that's why I appreciate a lot of these hard rock bands from the 70s and the 80s. They have that genuine, classy sense of humor, and they actually do make me laugh. So, but anyway, back to Van Halen. This is a very interesting tune. It's I sing along with it, and I'll actually find it interesting that Dave actually fits the album title "Women and Children First" into the song. It's actually kind of interesting that they don't have a title track for "Women and Children First." So you just got most of the time whenever a band, certain album that doesn't have a title track, most of the time they'll stick the album title in certain songs. Like in particular, since we're talking about Van Halen, they put "Women and Children First" in "Could This Be Magic?" So it's a nice little change of pace and a little bit of variety into the music that they've been providing. They can just do whatever they want and be a little bit more versatile in their music. So they don't have to just rely on balls out rockers to provide entertaining music. So it's a nice little change of pace for the album, and I dig it. The final track number 9, "In a Simple Rhyme." Another little interesting intro that Eddie kind of does. And then this one they just start to really punch you in the face and yet again provide a very interesting hard-rocking closer to an album. And very good badass riffs again. I could say that a lot in terms of any of these songs. I mean, but that's what you're going to get with Eddie Van Halen, just badass guitar riffs. He's going to show you that he can make up many riffs and just keep pulling them out of a hat. That's what many rock, king of rock guitarists would do. They would pull out fantastic riff after fantastic riff after fantastic riff after fantastic riff. I could keep repeating myself, but I'm not going to. And of course I like the "In a Simple Rhyme" chorus, and of course the wordless backing vocals that Michael Anthony and Eddie provide along with Dave singing. And of course Eddie going into another well done solo with another chorus with the wordless vocals that while Dave is taking us out to the end of the song, except false ending, there's a hidden track which is called "Growth," and it's just a little couple little drum beat by Alex, and Eddie's just playing a couple chords along with Michael Anthony playing along with Eddie to kind of take us out to the end of the song. So that's a little hidden track at the end of "In a Simple Rhyme." I mean, these guys are just still kicking ass with their instruments. Eddie Van Halen is just pulling out badass riffs. Michael Anthony and Alex Van Halen providing a very, very solid rhythm section. Of course, Diamond David Lee Roth being Diamond David Lee Roth with his charisma, style, and personality to his vocals. And so, like I said, great closer to the album. So, my thoughts on "Women and Children First" by Van Halen. I find it odd that they did not name this album Van Halen 3 like the 1998 album that they called Van Halen 3, which I am not a fan of, because that's the only album that they had with extreme vocalist Gary Cherone to sing on that album. And I listened to it I actually listened to that album throughout the course of the pandemic. And I gotta say, I'm not a fan of that album, and I know I'm not the only one who says it. I know some people actually like that album, and that's no problem for me. I genuinely don't like it. I don't know why they called that 98 album Van Halen 3 instead of, this album. Which would make a lot more sense, because it's like their third album and it's called Van Halen 3, but it's not. They had to wait until their 11th album to call that as Van Halen 3. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, Women and Children First. 3 times platinum, 3 million copies in the States, so another solid seller. But not many singles, no singles from this. Only one single, and that was "And the Cradle Will Rock." That's the only single from this album, which is, of course, yet one of their more popular tunes. I mean, that's another tune that you would hear on the radio occasionally. I may have heard that. I can't remember exactly if I've heard "And the Cradle Will Rock" on the radio, especially at work, but, I grew up with that tune a lot. And it has a special place in my heart. But yet another ass-kicking song delivered by Van Halen. And they're just knocking out of the park. And I love how there's, Eddie is where it's starting to add the variety with the keyboards, and they're starting to be more versatile with their music instead of just having to deliver balls out of rockers every single time. Like I'm talking about Could This Be Magic? And they're going to start, kind of doing that in later albums to come. And, Eddie Van Halen is just being Eddie Van Halen. Underrated rhythm section done by Alex and Michael Anthony. And Diamond David Lee Roth's where he's going to show his sense of humor, his hilarious side. And that's what I love of it. Like I said, those spoken word interludes that you hear in some of their songs, and, having that confidence that made him a great frontman is what I love about him. So, 3 killer, hard-rocking studio albums so far. They're just killing it. Absolutely killing it. Man. And Women and Children First is actually my 3rd favorite studio album. My favorite being the self-titled debut is my number 1. And Van Halen 2, I kind of place it back and forth, kind of like tied for 4th or 5th place. But, most of the time, in my case, it's kind of difficult for me to rank these albums because they're just so good. Sometimes, I guess on a good day, I would put Van Halen 2 as my number 2 on a good day. But, most of the time, I would kind of put them as like number 4 or 5 or something. Sometimes I fiddle around with the different rankings of the other albums. Besides the self-titled debut, that's always going to be my number 1. The first one is the one for me, always. But sometimes I would just kind of, mess around with the other albums. But most of the time I would put Women and Children First as my number 3. So, again, like I said, 3 fantastic hard rock studio albums done by one of the greatest rock and roll bands. They would become one of the greatest in the future, and they're just still killing it so far. So that's going to conclude my review and analysis of Van Halen's 1980 studio album, 3rd studio album done by their 3rd studio album done in 1980. I cannot talk. Women and Children First. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this review, and again, stay safe, take care.